playoff-bound teams wrap up this series. Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell. It is packed here at historic Wrigley Field, and although the Cubs have lost the first two games of this series, their fans are riding high right now because they're going to the playoffs for the first time since 2008. And Jake Arrieta, who's on the mound tonight, has had an incredible season, especially the last couple of months. But can he subdue the Pittsburgh Pirates, led by Andrew McCutchen, having another very strong season? The Pirates have 95 wins already, and they are breathing down the necks of the St. Louis Cardinals. As great a season as the Cardinals have had, they can't get rid of the Pirates. The Pirates have already won 95 games, and with the Cardinals losing earlier today to Milwaukee, they're just 2.5 back of St. Louis. And guess who is playing who beginning tomorrow? A 3-game series between the Cardinals and Pirates in Pittsburgh starts tomorrow night. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Wrigley Field. Dan Schulman, Jessica Mendoza, John Kruk, glad you're with us for Sunday Night Baseball. Let's start with the Pirates. 95 wins, Krucky. That's a big number, and they're trying to do anything they can to get out of that wild card spot and win the division.
Well, that's been their MO the whole season, is we don't want to play in the wild card game. If they have to, they will, but they don't want to. They want to catch the Cardinals. And Dan, to me, right now, the way the Pittsburgh Pirates are playing, 8 wins on this road trip, unprecedented in the game of baseball to win that many on the road. To me, though, they are the best team in the National League right now. With the injuries to the St. Louis Cardinals, you said it, they have 3 games coming up in Pittsburgh starting tomorrow. I think that is a way that the Pirates might be able to overtake the Cardinals and win this division.
Well, every win counts, so they'd love to get a win tonight. But can they beat Jake Arrieta? It's been hard just to score a run off Jake Arrieta the last couple of months.
In fact, it's only been 4 runs that he's given up in the last 2 months. And how's he been able to do it? He has just dominated the left side of the plate. He's utilized that slider and cutter beautifully. But these Pirate hitters know this is a guy that they're most likely going to see in 9 days, possibly in the wild card game. So how do they approach this game? They're not trying to make him bigger than he is, because right now, guys, he is the best pitcher in baseball.
Remember, we saw him on Sunday Night Baseball in Los Angeles a few weeks ago. He threw a no-hitter. He's been a threat to throw a no-hitter just about every time out recently. Let's go down to the field for more on Arrieta. Here's Buster Olney.
Tonight, Dan, Arrieta starts, and it's very possible that in 10 days he would start the National League wild card game against the Pittsburgh Pirates. And in light of that, I asked him if there was some thought that made some sense that he would bypass this start so that the Pirates don't see him again.
You know, regardless of how many times a guy's seen you, if you execute the same pitches, you vary your sequences, you change speeds, you change eye levels. I mean, I don't care who's at the plate. It's if you're able to execute and do those sort of things that you intend to do before you go out there, then it's going to be tough regardless of how many at-bats a guy has against him.
Now, I asked Pirates catcher Francisco Cervelli if they benefited at all from seeing Arrieta multiple times. He said, you don't ever want to face a guy like that. He's the nastiest pitcher in the National League. You have to give him credit. He's good, and so are we. Dan, back to you.
All right, Buster, thank you. He's the best pitcher in baseball right now. Nobody is hotter than Jake Arrieta on the mound. Nobody is hotter as a team than the Pittsburgh Pirates, who have won 8 in a row. This should be a good one as A.J. Burnett and the Pirates go for a sweep of the Cubs on Sunday Night Baseball.
Just give the ball to your ace, hold your breath, and hope it lasts.
And he's got it.
You can't predict baseball. That's rule number one.
That was the no-hitter thrown by Jake Arrieta at Dodger Stadium on August the 30th. One of the many incredible starts that he has made this year. A 20-game winner as he takes the mound for the Cubs here tonight. Aerial coverage brought to you tonight by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you've got to get DirecTV. We are ready for baseball here in Chicago. Arrieta's on the mound. Gregory Polanco, the right fielder and leadoff hitter for the Pirates, is settling into the batter's box. First 20-game winner for the Cubs in 14 years. And look at that number. That is not a typo. 0.48 ERA in his last 10 starts. Polanco ready. And underway here in Chicago with the ball sent foul over the third base dugout about 10 rows deep. Polanco, who has tweaked his left knee a couple of times in the last week or so, did not play yesterday. Back in the lineup tonight. Moved up to the leadoff spot midway through the season when Josh Harrison suffered a thumb injury. The 0-1 from Arrieta. Fastball that rides up and away at 96. A ball and a strike. After Polanco, it'll be Marte and McCutchen. Nice night here in Chicago. 68 degrees. Just a bit of breeze from right to left as Polanco pops it back out of play.
Keep an eye on Arrieta, how he commands the outside part of the plate, both the lefties and righties. That's his go-to pitch when he's in trouble. He'll throw that cutter in. He's ahead in the count right now to Polanco. It wouldn't surprise me right here if he tries to throw that cutter in on his hands.
The setup is inside, but he bounced it in, down and in. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
And that's the thing with the guy when he's this hot. You understand as a hitter that you're going to get one pitch to hit, possibly one pitch to hit per at bat. And if you miss it, your chances diminish greatly into basically ending up with an out.
And there it is, that hard cutter at 92 in under his hands for out number 1. Let's show you the Pirates lineup now. Presented by Taco Bell. You have seen Polanco. Here comes a very hot hitter in the 2 spot. It's Starling Marte. He had 13 hits in a 4-game series in Colorado earlier this week. Andrew McCutchen, of course, hitting third. A lot of depth to this lineup. 26 home runs down on the 7th spot where Pedro Alvarez is. Jordy Mercer's swinging the bat very well since he has once again become the everyday shortstop after the injury to Jung Ho Kang. Taken outside, ball 1 by Marte. Has had a very good season. 290. 18 homers. He's got power. He's got speed. 29 stolen bases. He's got 15 outfield assists. This is a multi-talented player that the Pirates have out in the outfield.
And there's the one, Dan. That's the one against Jake Arrieta you can't miss. That little hanger inside. Marte swinging a little late on it, but yeah, you look at pretty much he has become the complete player and everything that the Pirates had hoped he would become when they brought him up a few years ago.
Well, look at the location too. I mean, it's not like Miguel Montero just is having to move the mitt a whole lot after Arrieta throws the pitch.
Well, and that's the thing too, is it's not as easy to be so predictable, but you see exactly the pitch, Crucky, that you're talking about. The reason he misses that, and then he comes right back in on the hands. Once you get behind on Arrieta, now he's got you where he wants you.
But 2 different directions on those pitches.
And a fastball down the middle of the plate, grounded back to the mound. On to first, 2 down.
And that's the thing with Arrieta. You saw the 2 pitches ago, he threw the slider that started at Marte, broke over the inside part of the plate. It was up and hittable, but then he ran 2 in on his knuckles. And that's the thing, Jess, when you're hitting against a guy like this, you have to figure out really quick, okay, is this ball going to cut away from me or run in on me? It looks like it's going to cut away because that's his go-to pitch. That one runs in on Marte the last 2 pitches and jams him pretty good.
So a strikeout and a ground out, and here's Andrew McCutchen.
And this is the at-bat I'm interested in, not so much, obviously, because how great both of these players are. But the last time McCutchen stepped in the box against Arrieta, he struck out 3 times in the similar location away.
A little bit high, 2-0, and that was just 11 days ago. Arrieta's made 4 starts against the Pirates this year, 2-1 with an ERA under 1 in those 4 starts, and 8 very good innings against the Pirates on the 16th of September. There's a strike, 2-1.
That might have been the one. 2-0, pitch pretty much center cut, but with tail on it. Started away, came back over the center of the plate. That's the one you got to try to jump on.
Fastball there, 2-2.
McCutchen's sitting on that cutter. Arrieta is refusing to throw it to him. He's getting fooled with 2 seamers over the center of the plate.
He may get it now, though, right? At 2 strikes.
Yeah, it seems like an obvious choice.
There it is. And the inning is over. Took a lot off that breaking ball. Just 83 miles an hour. And a very good start for a guy who has been on an incredible run. And a Volcano Quesarito big boxes. Grab them at Taco Bell. And in part by Xerox, the company that simplifies the way work gets done. Watching the Pirates and the Cubs? Reply using hashtag #RepMyTeam with a picture supporting your team, and your tweet could wind up on TV tonight. No scores. We go to the bottom of the first. Jake Arrieta gets the Pirates in order, including a couple of strikeouts. Time now to check out the starting lineup for the Cubs tonight. Presented, of course, by Taco Bell. And they've got power up and down the lineup. All 8 of the position players here have 10 or more home runs. Led by Anthony Rizzo with 30, Chris Bryant with 26. Bryant's been hot. Bryant looks like a runaway choice as National League Rookie of the Year, and Anthony Rizzo going to get some MVP consideration.
Well, that's what makes Bryant's job so fun, is Rizzo's right behind him with that big aggressive swing. That's why he leads the team in home runs, but he's also not afraid to go with the couple and get singles. That's why he hits for average as well.
Crucky, a few weeks ago, it looked like 38-year-old A.J. Burnett and his elbow would not allow him to finish what appears to be his last season in the big leagues, but he's gotten healthy just in time.
Yeah, he has, and it's a big help to Clint Hurdle and the rest of the staff. And each start since he's come off the disabled list has gotten better. His last start, he featured more changeups than he's ever thrown in any game in his life. And you might see that pitch featured tonight against the likes of Rizzo and Bryant.
Dexter Fowler, the Cubs center fielder, leads it off. Switch hitter batting from the left side against the right-hander Burnett. The right side is Fowler's stronger side. Good power, good speed. 97 runs scored on the season, 3rd in the National League, as Cervelli wanted the call there, but home plate umpire Rob Drake felt it was high.
And that's something to look for, because Cervelli set up inside. The pitch ended up going away, and I think that's going to be a big telltale of Burnett's night. He's able to hit his spots. Again, same thing. Cervelli setting up in on that inside corner, and the ball missing.
He better get that pitch down to a guy like Anthony Rizzo, where it starts at his hip and breaks over the inside part of the plate, because Rizzo stands so close to plate. If it drifts up and away like that, Rizzo's going to take him deep.
High again, the same pitch. That's the two-seamer from Burnett, one of his bread and butter pitches. Used to be in his prime, 95, 96, maybe 97. At this point of his career, kind of 90 to 92. Just inside, and Burnett, you can see the body language from him.
It took him 4 pitches to get the spot he wanted. He finally gets it, and that's a call he's going to want to get. Especially if he's missing up and away, then he comes right back into that lower inside half to these lefties, which are the big bats for the Cubs. And this is a spot he's going to need.
I think Francisco Cervelli telling home plate umpire Rob Drake, you know, you see AJ's reaction right there, but now he's telling him, hey, you know, call it where it crosses home plate, not where I'm catching it.
Pretty long conversation between Cervelli and Rob Drake behind the plate. So a leadoff walk, and here's Kyle Schwarber, the rookie for the Cubs, playing more left field, not doing much catching at all right now for the Cubs, playing left field against righties. He has been slumping lately, hitting just 169 over his last 35 games. He still will take a walk. They like the possibility of him getting on base, and he's got big time power, 16 home runs. A very young team, especially when you look not so much at the pitching staff, but at the position players. Schwarber is a rookie. Bryant is a rookie. Soler is very young. Addison Russell is a rookie. The old guys are Rizzo and Castro. They're like 26 and 25. But here they are. Some would say, yeah, they're a year ahead of schedule. Some kind of dismiss that. But here they are with 89 wins and headed to the postseason for the first time since 2008. Fowler, pretty good speed, not running, and a swing and a ground ball to the right side. Walker up with it. Is anybody going to get there in time? Yes, Alvarez gets back just in time to retire Schwarber.
There you see the changeup from A.J. Burnett, and that's a good pitch to get a ground ball on, especially against a lefty who likes to try to pull the ball in that hole. And he thought he got it in that hole. Once it got past Alvarez, you thought, okay, we're first and third for the Cubbies. At Neil Walker, it's shading Schwarber way over in the hole. Takes a hit away from him, but now runners in scoring position with the 2 big RBI guys, and there's one.
And Bryant banks one up the middle for a base hit. Fowler around third and in to score on the 99th RBI on the season for Chris Bryant.
You could tell Bryant's just looking away. You can see just with his eyes everything he's trying to do, and he actually gets around this pitch a bit because of where the positioning was, not in the Pirates' favor this time. Mercer playing shading towards third base, so he's able to drive this pitch, get around it, up the middle.
Bryant has been hot, had a little kind of dip in the middle of the season, but swinging the bat very well of late. And Crucky, you've said it, if Rizzo's going to get some MVP votes, should Bryant also get some MVP votes?
I think without question, yeah, it could hurt one or the other if they take votes away from each other. Sometimes happens when two guys on the same team.
And I don't think we're suggesting either one of them is going to win it, but they both should get some votes, right?
I think without question.
1-0 to Anthony Rizzo in the dirt ball 2. The guy who's probably going to win it is Bryce Harper of Washington, and we'll get to the Harper Papelbon thing a little bit later on in the telecast when we have time. But for people who don't know, there was a fight in the dugout today between Jonathan Papelbon and Bryce Harper, initiated, from everything we can tell from the video, by Papelbon. The 2-0, and a little bit high again. Burnett not getting borderline pitches. It's ball 3.
You're making a guy who has diminished stuff from what he did when he first came up to the big leagues. Now you're making him throw it in a smaller box. And if you're the Cubs, you know, until they start giving him those calls that are borderline pitches, then, you know, if they can continue to lay off of them, they're going to get better pitches to hit.
And another one that Rob Drake says is high for ball 4. Second walk given up by Burnett. Some early frustration for Burnett and Cervelli.
Here's something a little daunting, too, if you're sitting the Pirates side and you're down 1-0, guys. In Jake Arrieta's last 10 starts, he's allowed 0 runs, 7 of those 10 starts.
And they've gotten him a run here in the first inning. Rob Drake's on his way to the mound right now. Cervelli takes his leave of Burnett. Jason Mott and the Cubs are pretty loose right now, aren't they?
A Joe Madden team loose?
Shocker. Cubs right now, because of the 2 losses the last 2 days, they're 5.5 back of the Pirates. So in essence, their fate is locked in. They will play on the road in the National League wildcard game. As Starlin Castro swings, it's a weak ground ball to short. Mercer's only play to first, and they don't get him. He beats it out to load the bases. Confirmed by replay.
Without question. And great hustle by Starlin Castro, who's really turned his season around since he moved to second base. His offense has gotten better. That pressure playing shortstop and is off of him now, and he more focuses on playing second base, and the hitting has become more relaxed for him.
He's hitting almost 400 over his last 29 games. Has been steadier at second than he was at short. Bases are loaded for the Cubs. Jorge Soler, the right fielder, is the batter. 266, 10 homers. First pitch swinging up there, looking to do some damage, and he fouled it back. If you're Burnett, you got to be a little bit frustrated right now. Whether you think you're not getting the calls or you're just missing, they've been right on the edges. Bryant's ball is a 3-hopper through the infield, hit it pretty well. Castro's ball is just a slow grounder, and look at the jam that he's in right now.
Yeah, but you know, Dan, one good pitch or get a ground ball from Soler, he can get out of this inning with only giving up the 1 run if he can get a double play.
Burnett came off the DL September the 10th. 5 innings, 64 pitches against Milwaukee. 5 1/3, 83 his next time out against the Cubs. 5 2/3, 98 his last time out against Colorado. Soler waves through the breaking ball, 1-2. And Burnett obviously does figure into the Pirates' postseason rotation. Garrett Cole would be the #1 guy. If Pittsburgh's in the wild card game, you would imagine Cole would start that game if he's available. Clint Hurdle loved the way Francisco Liriano pitched yesterday. He was terrific. One-two. And he got him. That's held by Cervelli on the foul tip for out number 2. And that is career strikeout number 2,500 for A.J. Burnett. They're actually making a mention of that on the scoreboard here in Chicago. I don't know if Burnett's aware it's up on the scoreboard, but he becomes the 32nd pitcher in Major League history with 2,500 strikeouts. And now they're going to take that ball out of play. .164 wins, 155 losses, and now 2,500 strikeouts in his career. 2 down and the bases loaded for Miguel Montero. And a ground ball weakly hit out to second. Walker plays it on to first, and that's the inning. So Burnett gives up a run, strands the bases loaded, and reaches a milestone. All in the very same inning. At the end of 1 here at Wrigley Field, the Cubs lead the Pirates 1-0. By Quicken Loans, and what an advantage Jake Arrieta has been for the Cubs, especially over the last 10 starts. His ERA in 10 starts is 0.48. That is one of the lowest marks over a 10-start stretch in Major League history. In fact, only 3 pitchers, Bob Gibson, Walter Johnson, and Lee Meadows. I had to look up Lee Meadows. Lee Meadows was
slider guy.
Yeah. He was traded in the middle of that streak from the Cardinals to the Phillies back in 1919. As Aramis Ramirez pops it up.
Who'd they get?
I didn't look it up. I didn't look it up that thoroughly. But I mean, 4 earned runs in 75 1/3 innings coming into this start tonight is what Arrieta has done. He's thrown a no-hitter. He's the only 20-game winner in the bigs right now. He is certainly in the conversation for the National League Cy Young Award with a couple of Dodgers, Zach Greinke and Clayton Kershaw. Greinke's got the lowest ERA. Kershaw's got the most strikeouts. Arrieta's got some great numbers as well, obviously. Neil Walker takes a strike.
Arrieta's got the most of everything else.
And he's a weapon. And to go back to the wild card game for a second, and the Pirates are only 2.5 back of the Cardinals. And they host the Cardinals for 3 beginning tomorrow. But either St. Louis or Pittsburgh is going to have to beat Jake Arrieta just to get to a division series. And the Cardinals and Pirates have both had magnificent seasons. And one of them is going home in 1 game. Now, the old playoff system, if you went back to the 1 wild card, Cubs wouldn't be in it. If you went back to no wild cards, obviously a whole different story. But, I mean, 98 and 58, 95 and 60 are nothing to sneeze at. But and that guy, Garrett Cole, if the Pirates are in the wild card game, he obviously could be on the mound.
I feel like it's almost like they're playing more for than the division series, but actually not to face Arrieta.
Yep. Wow, on the strike call?
Yeah, it's a little in. I mean, he's tough enough to hit. You're going to give him that one. You know, AJ's not getting any calls, and if you're going to give Arrieta that one, game over.
Full count on Neil Walker.
I think it was huge what AJ getting out of that inning with only the 1 run. Command was awful. Couple, infield hit by Castro. 3 or 4 hopper up the middle by Bryant, but
strike 3 call. Walker thought it was high. That one was definitely lower than a couple of the ones that Burnett didn't get, but Walker still felt it was above the strike zone. 3rd strikeout already for Arrieta.
Well, look at the path over this ball, and this is why he thinks it's high. It starts up in the zone, kind of drops back in just slightly, but watch the reaction of Walker. Almost coming at him, coming right back over the plate. And this is what Arrieta does a tremendous job of with his deception and that late movement, just enough to come right back in.
Francisco Cervelli, the batter. That's a pitch that Arrieta, he refers to it as just 1 pitch, although he says, I can throw it harder, more like a cutter, or I can throw it not quite as hard with more break like a slider. And sometimes he says he's in mid-delivery when he decides what he wants to do.
That's crazy.
I mean, for a hitter, Kruk, he may call it 1 pitch, but that's 2 very different pitches, right?
Well, 2 completely different pitches. One's about 93, 94. The other one is, in the high 80s, low 90s. A big difference and bigger break.
Swing and a miss at a high fastball, 2-1. He can always rear back for 96 too when he wants to. Never had anywhere near this kind of success as a young pitcher with the Baltimore Orioles. Came over in a trade to the Cubs July 2 seasons ago. Had a 10-5 record with a 2.53 ERA last year with the Cubs in 25 starts. Had some shoulder issues at the beginning of the year, but he has been healthy and strong throughout this season.
Guys, I asked Francisco Cervelli before the game about facing Arrieta, and he said he's the nastiest pitcher in the National League, and he said he's the only pitcher where it looks like the ball's coming at you from the shortstop.
Yeah, he's big. He's got a bit of a lower arm angle. He's got a lot of things working for him right now. As Cervelli granted time, Arrieta was actually rocking back into his windup already.
Now you know how left-hand hitters feel with Chris Sale pitching.
Yep. 2-2 on the way. And there's the big sweeper that he used to get Andrew McCutchen down to 83 with a lot more break. Cervelli didn't chase. Three-two. Inning over. Nasty. 6 up, 6 down, 4 Ks for Arrieta. RBI single by Chris Bryant in the bottom of the first. Jake Arrieta has set down the first 6 that he has faced tonight, 4 of them by strikeout. A.J. Burnett had to work hard in that half inning. He'll face Addison Russell, Arrieta, and then Dexter Fowler here in the bottom of the second. Russell, the shortstop, hitting .238, and he'll take a strike from Burnett. Breaking ball down and away, a ball and a strike. Russell hitting .195 over his last 29 games, .238 overall. Has some power, 13 homers. A better defensive shortstop than Castro is. As the pitch runs up and in, ball 2.
Not getting many borderline pitches, is he?
He's been up a lot. Most of the pitches that have been borderline that have not gone his way have been up in the zone. The one exception, I guess, would have been the 2-seamer to Schwarber, I think it was, that would look like it was over the inside corner with the knees, but he didn't get the call. Rizzo, excuse me. Here's the 3-1. And a pop-up. Jordy Mercer there, 1 down.
Well, the thing is A.J. Burnett isn't going to blow it by anybody, so he's really utilizing the different planes, and he needs to get these calls to make his pitches work. And you can see where these pitches are just missing. This is Dexter Fowler back in the first, up in the zone. See it coming right there low. These are all 3 strikes, and this is where Burnett lives, changing eye levels, being able to go up and down, and hitting those corners. Those are good pitches that he needs against a tough Cub lineup to get called.
Here's Arrieta, a 151 hitter on the season. He's got 1 home run. And I think when I was talking about the wild card situation last half inning, and Crucky, you know, this isn't the first time I was doing it. My brain and my mouth weren't going at the same speed. And I said one of these great teams in Pittsburgh or St. Louis is Arrieta drives one. Hold that thought. Arrieta's hit it out. A rocket to right center, an opposite field home run for Jake Arrieta. Pretty good.
Wait for him to get it out. There he goes.
Second home run of the season for Arrieta. 2-0 the Cubs lead.
That's legit power the other way too.
Here's Fowler.
You guys ever seen a pitcher get a curtain call in the midst of a start?
We did a game a couple of years ago. Remember opening day in Los Angeles, and it was Bumgarner and Kershaw, and I think it was scoreless going to the bottom of the 8th, right? Correct? Yeah. Kershaw hit a home run to lead off the bottom of the 8th. I'm guessing he might have gotten, I don't remember, but I'm guessing he might have gotten a curtain call that day. But right now, Jake Arrieta can do no wrong.
Yeah, there's some political offices he can run for in Chicago right now and win hands down.
One, two, and Fowler lays off.
I mentioned how hard A.J. Burnett had to work to get out of that first inning with only giving up 1 run. And who would have thought that the pitcher would go deep on him?
Especially opposite field.
I guess there are some that can hit.
Chop foul. So the Cubs, who were shut out yesterday, beaten 4-0 by the Pirates, and they lost 3-2 to Pittsburgh Friday. They lost 3 in a row. They had a good celebration after the game yesterday. Even though it was a loss, they decided to celebrate that they were officially going to the playoffs. And they come out here doing well so far here tonight as Fowler takes upstairs, and now the count runs full. Has not come easy for Burnett so far in this game. One hopper back to the mound. Easy play. 2 down.
Well, let's take a look at the swing of Jake Arrieta. First thing you notice is the leg kick, but no batting gloves. That's beautiful. No batting gloves, no pine tar. You throw a little rosin on there and let me go about my business. But I mean, that's a pretty short, compact, powerful stroke with that little leg kick. He kind of knew that was coming when he hit. I absolutely did. Did you hear the sound? And then the curtain call. Amazing. And he's a pitcher, and he's good.
Here's Schwarber, 2 down.
Give him the MVP too. What the heck?
Schwarber grounded out his first time up. Arrieta starting tonight so that he can start Friday, so that he can start next Wednesday in the wild card game. They have lined him up for that game. I was starting to say before a homer that a few minutes ago my brain was going one way and my mouth was going the other way, and I said one of those great teams, Pirates or Cardinals, going home after the wild card game. Of course, I should have said in jeopardy or may go home, depending on how it goes, against the Cubs in the wild card game. But boy, if you have won 95, 98, maybe 100 games, and you have to go up against the hottest pitcher in baseball in a 1-game winner-take-all scenario, That's a difficult chore, but either the Pirates or the Cardinals is going to be in that situation, having to beat Arrieta to advance to a division series.
And you wonder if Arrieta is going to be the Madison Bumgarner of 2014, who just steamrolled his team, willed his team to a world championship.
Walker from shallow right will throw out Schwarber. Jake Arrieta, though, shows he's not just a pitcher. He's a pitcher who can rake. His second home run of the season, opposite field power. And at the end of 2, the Cubs lead 2-0. Top third, 2-0 Cubs. Pedro Alvarez leads it off for the Pirates against Jake Arrieta. Arrieta 6 up, 6 down, 4 strikeouts so far. Alvarez 26 home runs on the season. Live K-Zone all game is brought to you by Booking.com. Looked outside, but Arrieta gets the call, and it's 1-1. Somebody wearing a Pirates jersey is going to get pretty angry.
They're going to get angry, and the first comment's going to be, he's hard enough to hit without you helping him.
And now Alvarez has to go chase that one.
Yeah, and that's the issue you're running into now with the Pirates is, you get one pitch off away or off the strike zone that's called a strike, and now you feel like, oh my gosh, I have to really expand the zone now against one of the best in baseball right now.
One-two, and a big looping curveball is called high. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
A heck of a game. Wow. Both teams are going to get frustrated if it continues.
To the cutter, down and in for strikeout number 5. There's a lot coming up this week and a lot of games of importance coming up this week. Tomorrow night we will have the Cardinals and Pirates for you on ESPN2. Pittsburgh will be either 2 back or 3 back of St. Louis, depending on the outcome of this game tonight. Doubleheader Tuesday, Red Sox and Yankees, and the A's and the Angels. The Angels in the AL wildcard hunt. Cardinals and Pirates again Wednesday with the Dodgers and Giants late. And we will also have a game still to be determined Thursday and Friday. As the hunt for October continues, the Yankees look pretty safe right now to host the wild card game. The Yankees won today. Houston won today. The Angels won today. The Twins won today. So for the top 4, nothing has changed in the American League wildcard race other than, of course, a day coming off the calendar. Keep in mind the Angels are at Texas to end the season, a 4-game series Thursday through Sunday. The Angels lost their closer yesterday, Houston Street, but Mike Morin picked up a save for the Angels today in a win over Seattle. Man, he is toying with them right now. 8 batters and 6 strikeouts.
This is that slider. He got Alvarez on. He comes right back with it to Mercer. But watch where it starts in the zone. It just kind of breaks away, falling off the table. And this is what he can do by throwing either a fastball in that same zone, coming back with a slider, curveball, and a cutter that can move in any which direction. Makes it very tough, especially with 2 strikes, to know where the pitch is going to end up.
A.J. Burnett thought that one was outside. He's mumbling a little bit.
Well, AJ's probably saying, wait a second, I served you up one. I'd be afraid to throw one down the center. Not that he's going to do anything with it, but get AJ peeking at that one away. He understands that he's not getting many calls.
One. And a liner to short, caught by Russell. The best contact a Pirate has made so far, but it finds a glove. Presented by Taco Bell. It's a 2-0 lead for the Cubs over the Pirates. The Cubs trying to salvage the final game of this 3-game series. The Pirates have won 8 in a row, including Friday afternoon in the opening game of this series when Garrett Cole picked up his 18th win of the season. Cole was outstanding. 7 innings, a run on 4 hits, walked only 2, struck out 8, and has gone to 18-8 on the season with a 2.60 ERA. Very pleased to be joined now live from the Pirates dugout by Garrett Cole. Garrett, thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
Hey guys, how you doing?
We're doing great. How different is it clinching a playoff spot the 3rd time around than, say, maybe it was a couple years ago?
I mean, it definitely doesn't have the same tingle as it did the first year that we did it. We did it here too, but you know, it's still really special. It's you know, it's a lot of hard work that goes into get into the playoffs, and hopefully we can get deep in October.
Well, there's been so much focus on the division and who's going to be in the wild card game. You guys are only 2.5 back of the Cardinals right now. Will be 2 or 3 depending on the outcome tonight. What are the thoughts of the guys heading into the series against the Cardinals starting tomorrow?
Well, we've always had our sights set on the division title since the beginning of the year, and I think until that's mathematically eliminated, I think that's what we're going for.
Hi, Garrett. It's Jessica. This is a team all season long. You guys have shown it with the defense. Obviously, you're pitching. Great bats led by Andrew McCutchen. What stands out most to you about this team?
It's a complete ball club. We have power, speed, defense, pitching, both sides of the game too. Bullpen and starting pitching. We have fantastic catchers that are connected. A lot of seamless transitions. It always seems to be next guy up, no matter somebody gets hurt, somebody's not playing well, or skip like spin matchups. Everybody just does their job well.
Garrett, you've been on both sides of the wild card. 2 years ago, of course, you won it and went on to play the division series against the Cardinals. Last year, Madison Bumgarner showed his dominance. Is that something, even if you are a wild card team, are you that type of guy that can say, you know what, I can do what Bumgarner did last year?
Well, I hope so. I think that's everybody's goal. You got to take it one game at a time. Hopefully, we can put ourselves in a position and we don't have to get to that game, because you know how it can go any way in one game.
Chris Bryant leading off the bottom of the third for the Cubs. They're up 2-0 on the Pirates right now. And that's all for Bryant, one down. Garrett, how happy were the guys in the room that A.J. Burnett was able to come back from the elbow problem and get back into the rotation here in September?
It's really special that he was able to come back. He's such a tough guy. He's such a competitor. He's been on the DL before, so rehabbing it was almost like routine to him, and he handled it like a professional, and he's come out and taken the ball for us, just the way he left off. It was really cool to see him get 2,500 tonight.
Yeah, picked up his strikeout number 2,500 when he got Soler back in the first. Garrett, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Continued success and good luck into October.
Thank you.
Garrett Cole, 18-game winner for the Pirates.
That's what's amazing. 18 games, his ERA under just over 2.5, and not even being mentioned in the Cy Young talk. Just tells you how good pitching has gotten in this game.
Yeah, but the years that Greinke, Arrieta, and Kershaw are having this year. Anthony Rizzo, a swing and a miss, 1-1. Rizzo walked his first time up. Burnett walked a couple in the first inning. Gave up a run on an RBI single by Chris Bryant. Gave up the home run to Jake Arrieta in the second. Rizzo grounds one down to first. Alvarez underhands on to Burnett, 2 down. It has been a good Pittsburgh Pirates rotation, led by Cole with his 18 wins and his 2.60 ERA. On any given day, Francisco Liriano can be about as good as anybody. Some peaks and valleys, but boy, was he good yesterday. Burnett back off the DL. Jay Happ coming over in a trade. Look at those numbers. Look at what he's done with the Pirates. And you got to believe, guys, that he might have inserted himself into that postseason rotation. And again, nobody knows, will they be in a wild card game? Can they still catch the Cardinals, win a division? But you got to believe if they do get into the division series, that Jay Happ's going to get serious consideration for a start.
Yeah, I think it depends on a matchup, of course, but you could see if the Pirates play the Cardinals with the left-handed hitters that the Cardinals have, maybe Jay Happ gets one of the starts instead of maybe Charlie Morton.
It's amazing what a change of scenery does for him too, especially with that elevated fastball, his command, so many things that he struggled with in Seattle that seem to fall into place with Pittsburgh.
What a play by Neil Walker out in shallow center to rob Starlin Castro of a base hit. 3 up, 3 down, go the Cubs. Nice play by Walker. 2-0 Chicago, end of 3. Young award in the National League. Zach Greinke's got the lowest ERA in baseball. Clayton Kershaw's got the most strikeouts in baseball. And Jake Arrieta's got incredible numbers as well and is on a 10-start run that few in the history of the game have ever rivaled. Look at that ERA for Greinke. 165. That would be the lowest in 20 years. Greg Maddux had a 163 20 years ago. Clayton Kershaw, 281 strikeouts, the most in over a decade. And we told you a little bit about Arrieta already tonight. An ERA under 1 since the All-Star break, a 0.48 ERA since the 1st of August. How do you choose?
Can you cut it up in 3 pieces or give it to each one of them? To me, I agree with what Tim Kirkson was saying on Baseball Tonight about Greinke, how his ERA has never been over 2 all season. And Arrieta's run has been great in the second half. But I think if you're going consistency and pretty much dominance from the first start to the last, is Zach Greinke's Cy Young right now.
I just think about it. Obviously, the Cy Young isn't the valuable like the MVP, but we're the Cubs without Arrieta, and to me that is everything when I think about an award. It's a big difference when you take out Greinke in the equation for the Dodgers versus Arrieta for the Cubs, and it's going to come down to probably 1 game for them, and they're going to be on his shoulders.
So you would give it to Arrieta?
I would give it to Arrieta.
Right. He's retired the first 10 batters he has faced tonight. Starling Marte comes up right now.
But if you take Greinke out of the Dodgers rotation, besides Kershaw, it ain't very good.
Kershaw's pretty nice. What is it, number 2? I mean, what's
1A.
Yeah. Jake Arrieta, assuming he goes at least 4 innings tonight, will surpass Clayton Kershaw for the innings lead in the National League. Zach Greinke is 5th. Strikeouts, Kershaw is 1st. Arrieta is 4th. ERA, Greinke 1, Arrieta 2, Kershaw 3. Wins not looked upon as nearly as important a statistic as it used to be. Arrieta 1, Greinke tied for 2nd with Bumgarner and Cole. Kershaw 6th with 15. 3 great seasons. Marte grounded out back to the mound his first time up. I mean, that's a 92-mile-an-hour cutter that's breaking, it looks like almost a foot. I mean, really good hitters are swinging and missing by a lot on that pitch.
Yeah, you understood why people couldn't hit Mariano Rivera's cutter when they knew he was going to throw it. But that was for 1 inning. I mean, this is 8-9 innings he's gone, and you know he's going to throw it eventually, and it's still unhittable.
Took a little off, a little more break, but Marte laid off.
I think the hardest part for these righties right now is the fact that he can keep that pitch straight when he wants to, and so they're sitting on that knowing that this could be a strike, or is it going to have that late tail where it's completely out of the zone.
Got it. Strikeout number 7.
And that last one's a perfect example of how he can utilize his fastball, and so far tonight he's utilized the fastball to set up his breaking ball, and you see where he hits that outside part of the plate, and this is against McCutchen, so he's able to get in the mind that when you see this location, boom, now I can get that late break out of the zone. He does the same thing here, starts it up with the fastballs, you see it hard there in the zone, and then just drops with the curveball out of the zone, so he's using that pitch to set up, and then as you saw with Polanco, to finish him up.
Truckee looked like Andrew McCutchen went up there guessing for a pitch on the first pitch, trying to do some damage.
Yeah, and he got it. And again, that might be the one. And you can't miss that pitch. And Andrew, look, with 2 outs, he's trying to go deep, because you know you're not going to string together 3 hits against Arrieta to score a run. So he's trying to go deep right there and make it a 1-run game.
Something didn't feel right in that left hand of McCutchen after that swing.
It slipped off the bat. And you watch him. This is a big torque right here, and you see the bottom hand didn't slip off. It just looked like his top hand slid up the bat, and rolled on him. Well, we've seen him 2 starts now. Arrieta, this is 2nd. We've seen a lot of interesting swings against him.
We haven't seen a hit against him.
No, that's true. 2 Sunday night baseball starts this year. He hasn't given up a hit yet.
And AJ's been the only one that's had a chance in the 2 games.
They've yet to come in. The last 4 at bats to McCutchen come inside. Has really worked away.
Expression never changes. Even Clint Hurdle, the Pirates manager, talking about just how in control of things Arrieta seems to be out on the mound. The posture he has, the confidence that he's exuding out on the mound. Pops him up. Rizzo. 4 perfect innings, 7 strikeouts for Jake Arrieta. We'll talk with Cubs manager Joe Madden when we come back. Well, the Cubs may have lost 3 in a row, but they've had a great season, 89 and 65, and they are headed to the postseason for the first time in 2008, and they're a loose bunch right now. There is no denying that. They are having fun, and they are looking forward to playing baseball in the month of October. Let's bring you back live to Wrigley Field now, down to the dugout on the third base side of the field, manager Joe Madden. Joe, congratulations on guiding this team to the postseason. What was the celebration like yesterday and last night?
Typical celebration. It was pretty good post-game in the clubhouse. Eventually to one of the several bars on Clark Street. It was outstanding.
Watching Jake Arrieta tonight, not only getting it done on the mound, also with his bat. What do you enjoy most watching him?
The consistency of the delivery. I'm watching from over here, and how he repeats his delivery so well. And then you could really gauge the effect right around home plate. That's well struck. Look at that. Darn metrics. You can really see how the ball finishes at home plate. It really finishes with great carry on the fastball. You could see the effectiveness of the cutter slider when the hitter really looks overmatched. It's just been really impressive to watch from this angle.
Yeah, Joe, we get a good seat up here, and his last 2 starts, his last start on Sunday Night Baseball, of course, he threw the no-hitter against the Dodgers, and we don't want to bring up anything that might break a streak, but he's been pretty good tonight too.
Yeah, honestly,
if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, from the side, like I'm telling you, man, I'm watching it from the side, and I'm just like smirking at Davey here right next to me because the pitches have great finish to them. And again, you could really see that from ground level, maybe a little bit better than you can see it from up top there.
Well, he's getting some funny swings against some really good hitters.
Well, that's the thing, too. I mean, the Dodgers had a bunch of good hitters, too. And right now, you can't get more focused than he is. If you ever watch this guy work out, it's incredible. He's in spectacular shape, not even great shape. He's just he's a different cat right now. The combination of skill and how he takes care of himself and how he finishes pitches is kind of unique.
Hey, Joe, thanks for joining us. Good luck the rest of the way.
My pleasure. Have a great game, guys.
Thank you. Joe Maddon, the manager of the Chicago Cubs. They're up 2-0, bottom of the fourth. That was Jorge Soler who hit the ball hard, but Neil Walker playing up the middle made the catch. Now here's Miguel Montero. We were talking to Joe Maddon before the game. You know, they're 5.5 back of the Pirates. The Cubs are locked in. They're either going to go to Pittsburgh or go to St. Louis. They're pretty much locked in. Going to go to Pittsburgh or go to St. Louis for a wild card game. And we said, you know, was there any consideration given to maybe not starting Arrieta to show the Pirates Arrieta again? And he said right away, he said, nah. He goes, first of all, I'm worried about my guy, not how other guys feel about my guy or what they may see. He wants to keep his guy on schedule. This is Arrieta's schedule. And then he used a line and he said, I also don't like standing or getting in the way of greatness, is the line that Joe Maddon used to us before the game. And then he said, you know, it's not like as Montero has a base hit. He said, it's not like I'm going to let him throw 130 pitches or anything, you know, unless he throws a no-hitter tonight. Well, he hasn't given up 1 through 4. So we'll see how this plays out as the night continues for Jake Arrieta. He's also hit a home run tonight. Right?
Yeah, that could have tired him out. He might only go 8.
Let's go down to Buster.
And Joe Maddon mentioned how hard Arrieta works out. What's interesting, after talking with him on Saturday about this, he doesn't have a regimen that he does the exact same thing every day. Sometimes he does yoga, sometimes he does plyometrics. Before the game, guys, he actually was in the outfield doing some push-ups and stretching out and getting ready for this start. And he made it very clear when we spoke with him that he finds it to be very important that he doesn't get caught into doing the same thing every day. He keeps it fresh, and he absolutely works to stretch the limits of his body as he does these workouts.
There's a sharply hit ball into left field, a base hit for Addison Russell. Up to second on the play goes Montero.
Playing the pitcher, Jake Arrieta.
I don't know if you can credit the push-ups and the stretching for this, but man, he hit that ball hard.
Hit it hard. He really did look like a hitter. It wasn't like a pitcher hit one by accident.
It looked like he was sitting on a tee for him. I mean, that's how simple he made it look. And his strength.
And you certainly can't bunt him here. With 1 out, I mean, he's arguably your hottest hitter.
He's a big guy, 6'4", 225, opposite field power last time he was up.
Yeah, he ain't bunting. He'd have looked down there and dropped his head if they'd have gave him the bunt sign. Like, are you kidding me?
And a breaking ball over the inside corner for a strike, 1-1.
The old equalizer.
A little bit too far inside for ball 2. Burnett has now started against the Cubs 4 times this year. In all 4 of those starts, Jake Arrieta has been the starter for the Cubs. And Burnett's pitched great, 1-0 with a 1.47 ERA in the 3 games. All 3 close, all 3 low scoring.
Yeah, here's where you don't want the game to get away from you with Arrieta up at bat. You're walking right here to load the bases with only the 1 out. And that 1 out was a hardest hit ball of the inning.
And Burnett maybe gets a break, and the count is full.
Been consistently inconsistent with the strike zone, that's for sure. I mean, that's pitch is a good 3 to 6 inches outside, and you get a call.
Two on with 1 out. The Cubs up 2-0 as they bat here in the bottom of the 4th inning. And the 3-2. Strike 3 called. Again looked outside off the plate, but Arrieta just heads back to the dugout. Coming up on October the 6th, it's the beginning of the postseason, the American League Wild Card game, and you can see it right here on ESPN. The National League Wild Card game will be played the next night, Wednesday the 7th on TBS. All regular season tiebreakers, if there are any 163s, you will see them on ESPN. And don't forget that every postseason game, from the wild card games right through to the end of the World Series, can be heard on ESPN radio.
Now here's how you keep a game close with Jake Arrieta hitting 3-1. He gets AJ gets that call away, so he stays out there again. It's basically the same pitch. So like we said, consistently inconsistent. 2 balls, but they were both called strikes. And you know, AJ's 1 pitch away from getting out of this inning without giving anything up.
Dexter Fowler, a walk and a ground out. Good breaking ball there by Burnett. Nice night here on the north side of Chicago. Sunday night baseball from Wrigley Field. A couple of playoff bound teams, the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Chicago Cubs. And it is jam packed here at Wrigley. Cubs will play their final home game tomorrow. They've got a makeup game. They'll host Kansas City tomorrow night before finishing their season on the road. Fowler is swinging a miss, and Burnett gets out of it. A couple of men left on. End of 4, 2-0 Cubs. Jake Arrieta heading back to the mound. Top of the 5th inning. 2-0 Cubs. And Aramis Ramirez leads it off against Jake Arrieta. Arrieta perfect through 4, 7 strikeouts. Ramirez, a longtime member of the Cubs, who was announced his retirement at the end of the year, was honored in a brief pregame ceremony by the Cubs today. It was a Cub from 2004 to 2011, acquired from the Brewers at the end of July this year. He'll be followed by Neil Walker and then Francisco Cervelli here in the 5th. Right on the corner, 2-2.
I think you're seeing the swings of Andrew McCutchen and the swing here on 2-0 pitch by Aramis Ramirez. You know, stringing hits together is not an option tonight. They're trying to go deep every chance they get, and that's, to me, the wrong way to approach a guy like Jake Arrieta.
Got him. Ramirez doesn't like it. He doesn't think it's a strike, but it's number 8 for Arrieta.
This is where Arrieta wants to live. He had a ball up in the zone, same location. He comes and just has it tail a little bit away and off the plate. And if he can get this pitch called, as we saw Burnett get it last inning, it'd be almost impossible for these righties to touch it.
Not a strike, he says.
He's right.
Neil Walker, the batter. Curveball on the first pitch there, and it's fouled off by Walker. Arrieta's actually got a much better opponent's batting average when he goes against left-handed batters. Right-handed batters are hitting .218. That's not much to write home about. Lefties are hitting only .161.
The righties own it.
Yeah, and it might be that pitch right there, Crucky, that cutter in on their hands that you just can't do very much with.
Well, I think it's the cutter, it's the deception, it's the velocity, it's the movement on all his pitches. And that one there just bears in on the hands of Neil Walker.
Crucky, when you mentioned the deception, I mean, Buster mentioned earlier how Cervelli told him it looks like it's coming from the shortstop. He's up to bat right now. And the reason that is not only is he on the third base side of the rubber, but the way his plant foot comes down in that crossfire motion creates deception with how that ball is released, looking like it's going to be on the third base side, and then it creeps right over to first. Right there. So Cervelli was explaining it looks like it's coming from the shortstop, and a lot of times as a hitter you're going to fly with that front side. It's going to make you flinch because you think it's coming at you because the way his body is coming at you, and then breaks away.
Outside, 3-0.
Wow.
Watch Arrieta get into his motion. This is the view from the hitter. So you see that front foot. Look at how it comes right at Cervelli. So that launch angle is now going to come, and he comes across his body. That's what's called the crossfire. And all you need as a hitter is just a slight little flinch of that front shoulder, that front hip, and then it just makes you susceptible to the cutter, the slider, or anything away.
No base runners yet for the Pirates. Arrieta in with a strike. 3-1 now on Cervelli. Chased a pitch down low. The count is full. And a ground ball to short. Russell in time. 15 up, 15 down. Direct TV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you got to get Direct TV. Back at Wrigley Field, bottom of the 5th inning. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. Dan Schulman, John Kruk, Jessica Mendoza, Buster Olney. 2-0. The Cubs lead the Pirates. A run in the first on an RBI single by Chris Bryant. A run in the second on a home run by Jake Arrieta, who also was doing a pretty nice job on the mound tonight. No base runners yet for the Pirates. 2-3-4 for the Cubs. As A.J. Burnett's first pitch hits Kyle Schwarber. And the leadoff man is aboard with Bryant and Rizzo coming up now.
Like a changeup, A.J. just pulled off the front toe.
Almost looked like Schwarber saw it and let it hit my toe.
Why move?
Now Bryant. And he'll take outside at the knees for ball 1.
You look at the season that Chris Bryant is having. 26 home runs, 99 RBIs. Unless something drastic happens, he's going to finish with over 100 RBIs. And, you're talking about Anthony Rizzo, the leadership that he brings, and yes, he is an MVP candidate, but I think numbers-wise, you have to throw Chris Bryant in there. Plus the fact that, when he first came up, he was playing left field, he was playing third base, back to left field. I mean, he was switched all around. But one thing he never did was stop hitting. You mentioned a lull in the middle of the season, but most players will go through that, whether you're a rookie or you've been playing 7-8 years. They'll go through a lull at some point in the season. But the way he fought out of that and the numbers he's put up, is he going to win the MVP? No. Should he get some consideration and some votes? Absolutely.
He has set Cub rookie records for most home runs and most RBIs in a season this year. 26 homers, and the RBI picked up in the first inning is 99th of the season.
Even look at his numbers since August 19th. He's been batting .360 with 10 home runs. There's only 2 batters in the NL hitting better than him. That's Bryce Harper and Escobar. Talk about throwing your name into that list and getting hot at the right time. I mean, that to me, when you're considering just votes for an MVP, it's about how valuable are you when your team needs you. Does it matter so much April and May? No. August, September? Yes.
Sharply hit right back up the box into center field. Schwarber stops at second, 2 on with nobody out.
Chris Bryant is tall, lanky, and long, and the way he can reach these outside pitches. I mean, there's a pitch that AJ throws. It does leak back a little bit, but look at his plate coverage. I mean, he has plenty of bat to cover the entire plate. But look how he keeps his head on the ball, drives his back leg through the pitch, and hits a hard line drive up the middle that gets past Burnett and into center field for a second hit of the game. But this is a swing that, if you're worried about pitchers making adjustments, he'll be able to cover that.
Here's Anthony Rizzo.
Something Rizzo has done this year is to see him just crowd that plate. And that last pitch called a strike. Kind of had a look on it, but
that's why he's susceptible to that pitch, that 2-seamer that starts at him and breaks over the plate. And then sometimes because of that pitch, he'll get started early to try to get to that pitch. And you saw it yesterday with Antonio Bastardo threw him a breaking ball that, after throwing him a fastball in, and he just kind of reached for it and flipped the pop up to center field.
It's also why he gets hit a lot.
29 times, 12 more than anybody else in the National League.
And he's a big guy too, so he's crowding, challenging pitchers. Hey, try to get in my kitchen.
Changeup down and away, and he's fallen behind 3 balls and a strike on the Cubs cleanup hitter.
Here's where AJ has to be careful. You can't just, even though Castro's swinging a hot bat last 29, 30 games, still can't throw a cookie to Rizzo.
Right in on his hands, weak ground ball to first. Alvarez will take it himself to get Rizzo as the runners advance. Well, a game of extreme significance to the Pirates took place earlier today in St. Louis. And in Milwaukee, they were tied at 1 at the bottom of the 7th with Matt Carpenter, who's been on a home run tear lately, steps up and hits his 27th of the season. The Cardinals would take a 3-1 lead to the 9th, and the Brewers erupted. Jason Rogers with a grand slam off Trevor Rosenthal. Milwaukee scores 7 in the 9th. They win 8-4. And because of that, at the moment, St. Louis is only 2.5 games ahead of Pittsburgh. And as we mentioned, the Cardinals will be in Pittsburgh for a 3-game series beginning tomorrow night. You can see the Monday and the Wednesday games on ESPN. So the Pirates, and Garrett Cole said it to us in the interview. Clint Hurdle has said it to us all year long. The goal remains the same today as it was when they started spring training back in February: win the division. And they still have an opportunity to do that if they can do well against the Cardinals this week. Just amazing to have a year like the Cardinals have had, and to not be able to distance yourself from the second place team in your division.
Now they're like the Giants of last year. They're just not going to go away. As much as you think you've gotten rid of them, they're coming back. And Joe Blanton told me today, he said, if we're down 4, we still think we have a chance no matter what inning it is. There's no give up on this team.
Starlin Castro is the batter. Clint Hurdle has brought the infield in, not wanting to fall any further behind. And the way Jake Arrieta's throwing tonight, you can understand that. Castro, an infield hit, and then a liner caught by Walker out at second. The ball he hit hard was caught. The ball he hit softly was a base hit. Out of play. It all starts with the American League wild card game Tuesday night, October the 6th at 8 o'clock Eastern time right here on ESPN, followed by the National League wild card game Wednesday night the 7th on TBS. Go to MLB.com/postseason for a full schedule. As of now, that AL wild card game would come your way from Yankee Stadium, and as of now, the National League wild card game would come your way from Pittsburgh, but still a lot to be decided in the season's last week. Bounce foul, third base side.
And that's the old swing of Castro. When he struggled, you see him kind of step in the bucket with that front foot and reach for pitches, and something that he's worked on. The reason he's had success in the second half is he's tried to really get that front foot to get more to the pitcher. One of the hardest things to break, we've all done it as hitters, is when that front foot gets in the wrong spot and everything else flies with it.
Schwarber at third, Bryant at second. One out here in the bottom of the 5th. The Cubs trying to add to their 2-run lead. And again the 0-2. Got him. Strikeout number 5 for A.J. Burnett. 2 down in the inning.
This is a great spot for Burnett to go and recognize, both him and Cervelli, the weakness that Castro showed in that last swing, and watch where Castro's swing is going. Everything flying to the left side of the field. See where that front foot goes, front hip, and this pitch beautifully just breaks away from the bat path of Castro.
So now it'll be up to Jorge Soler. 0 for 2, a strikeout and a lineout. Fastball there for a strike.
Soler in the first inning had a chance to break this game open. He too struck out with Bases loaded, runner on third with less than 2 outs.
Young outfielder, been on the DL a couple of times this year. The Cubs with very high hopes for him, that he's going to be one of their keys to their future. One of the many great young position players that the Cubs have in their system, and most of them have now arrived at the major leagues this year. Joe Maddon loves the talent. Russell, Soler, Bryant, of course.
You don't think Bryant needs a little more seasoning in the minor league?
That was the biggest topic in baseball back in March and April, huh?
How many games did he miss to start the season?
13, I believe. I think 13.
I wonder if they finished 3 games out of first place if this weekend or this coming week shakes out with the Pirates Cubs, and you know, let's say the Cardinals sweep the Pirates and the Cubs continue to win, and you know, you think, wait a second, if he'd have been here all year.
Just playing devil's advocate,
they say
they got him for another year.
Yeah.
Or they control him for another year.
Yeah.
So they, you know, they were thinking about 2021 in 2015. I know.
Players love that, though. I mean, everyday players love to hear that. They love it.
Seems like it was a long time ago now, that whole conversation.
Yeah.
6 months later, Cubs headed to the postseason.
Jess said, you know, games in April and May, but games in April and May mean a lot when it comes to the way this wild card thing's set up.
2-2 to Soler. Bounced in and blocked by Cervelli. The count full.
Well, here's where, if you're A.J. Burnett, you can use the aggressiveness to Soler. You got a base open. Yeah, Montero got to hit his last at bat, but you don't have to throw a strike right here because of the aggressiveness that Soler has at the plate. See if he can get himself, throw a borderline pitch to see if he can get himself out.
They want to make sure they're on the same page with how important this next pitch is. Two in scoring position with 2 down and a full count on Soler. Fly ball to center. McCutchen is there, and that'll end the inning. The Cubs can't get that big hit they're looking for to add to their lead. End of 5, and it remains the Cubs 2 and the Pirates nothing. To the 6th inning, Pedro Alvarez leads it off against Jake Arrieta. 2-0 Cubs lead, top 6. Arrieta's retired all 15 he has faced. He has struck out 8. Alvarez, Jordy Mercer, and then A.J. Burnett scheduled here in the 6th inning.
Here's what has been fascinating with me with Jake Arrieta tonight. You know, even though he's behind the count 2-0, he still feel like he's in favor. It still looks like Cervelli was 3-0. He took a strike, of course. Then it was all defensive swings after that with the 3-1 count. And usually Cervelli's a very aggressive hitter. You know, and Pedro Alvarez the same way. A 2-0 pitch, it's away, and it looked like he was just hoping to put it in play.
And I think that is the advantage of them seeing Arrieta before the wild card game, is to be able to build him up like that in your mind.
A pop up into shallow left. Schwarber in fair territory, reaches back and makes the catch. 1 down.
Well, you talk about how great he's been and its consistency, especially on the outside part of the plate to the right-handed hitters, and he can dot it. This is every inning he's thrown a ball today. This is where he's thrown pitches to these right-handed hitters, establishing a way, and then when he needs a strikeout, he can throw it away and have it break off the plate and get swings and misses. But it's just incredible how consistent he is with the fact that he can hit the outside corner to these right-handed hitters, and none of them have made an adjustment and hit a ball the other way yet.
Strike taken by Jordy Mercer as Antonio Bastardo now starts to throw in the Pirates' pen. A.J. Burnett has come out in the on-deck circle as of now. Mercer struck out his first time up, and he hits a ground ball down to third. Bryant up with it and on to first. 2 down. And Burnett is going to come to the plate. So maybe if they had gotten a man on and the tying run was coming up, then Clint Hurdle was going to make a move. But because they don't have anybody on base, they'll stay with Burnett.
But the best hit ball against Arrieta tonight has been off the bat of Burnett. I mean, he had a nice line drive that.
By far the best hardest hit ball.
What, those jam shot grounders? That's not good content.
Not unless they have your speed, Crookie.
Well, thank goodness none of them do.
Burnett lining out sharply to the shortstop. Addison Russell had to reach to his left and down off the shoot tops to make the catch. 2 down here in the 6th. And a strike down the middle. 1-1 on Burnett. One and 2. A 92-mile-an-hour cutter with the break of a slider. Really breaks
against
8-10
the pitcher.
inches.
Yeah, against the pitcher.
Yeah. A bouncer to second. Lots of time for Castro, and the inning is over. What a week it'll be around baseball. We've got the Cardinals and Pirates for you tomorrow night on ESPN2, a doubleheader Tuesday. Red Sox and Yankees followed up by the Angels hosting the A's. Cardinals and Pirates again Wednesday. And then late, the Dodgers and Giants will also have a game Thursday and Friday for you on the ESPN family of networks. Those games still to be determined based on which games are the most meaningful at that time. This one has been meaningful and interesting. As we go to the bottom of the 6th inning, the story is Jake Arrieta, but it's the Cubs coming up to bat now, leading 2-0. Miguel Montero, Addison Russell, and then Arrieta due here in the 6th. AJ Burnett probably into his last inning of work. This pitch will be his 90th of the night. Montero has grounded out and singled. There's a call Burnett wanted but didn't get in the first couple of innings. He gets it here, and the count is 0-2.
Burnett has done a better job of hitting his spots since the first couple innings. We saw him kind of struggle in the first. Didn't get the calls he wanted either. And then Arrieta hit the home run in the second. But since then, he's settled in nicely.
Burnett has battled tonight. Cubs have stranded 7. He's gotten out of some jams to keep it close, but he won't get Montero as he ropes one into the right field corner for a long single to start the inning. Now Addison Russell 1 for 2. Russell has made the one play that had to be made in support of Arrieta, the only difficult play really that's been made defensively by the Cubs tonight. Two outs in the 5th inning. And look at how his foot slips out from underneath him, but then he regains his balance. So really 2 tough plays, and he's made both. One of them on a liner off the bat of Burnett, and then that ground ball off the bat of Cervelli. I mean, he could have wound up on the seat of his pants very easily in that play. Stayed with it, made a good strong throw. Meanwhile, Bastardo was back up, and he's been joined by the right-hander Jared Hughes. Hurdle, 5th season as manager of the Pirates. He's taken them to the playoffs the last couple of years. Remember, he was the manager of Colorado back in 2007. As the runner goes, pitch is swung on and missed, throw down and not in time. And we may have a discussion, and the Pirates, Neil Walker's out there saying, let's check this on the replay. So Clint Hurdle going to have one eye on the field and one eye on the phone and decide what he wants to do.
He's appealing it.
Oh, they got him. Yeah. It did graze the leg of Montero.
And you hope this doesn't take too long. It's pretty obvious.
This almost looked like a hit and run. How far this ball was out of the zone, but look at Cervelli not only be able to scoop it up, but be in the mindset not to go to his knees, get right back into a good position to throw, to get this to Walker to make the tag before Montero gets to second base.
And they have called him out. So the call overturned, 1 out in the inning. The count now 1-2 on Russell. Arrieta waiting on deck. Bounce foul.
It's an interesting call putting on the hit and run. AJ's command has been very inconsistent in this game tonight. You saw Russell had to chase a bad pitch. I mean, you're forcing him to swing at a pitch that he knows he can't do anything with. Bounced. You know, Jess, you mentioned it. Cervelli made a great play, but it's a tough call to put on a hit and run with a guy like A.J. Burnett pitching the way he's thrown it tonight.
1-2 again. Sharply hit, but right at the third baseman Ramirez, and Russell retired 2 down. Now Arrieta again. Not only has he been lights out of the mound, he's hit a home run in this game. For those who weren't with us earlier, opposite field power. Arrieta's second home run of the season. Now he drills another one deep center field. McCutchen makes the catch right up against the ivy. This guy's something else right now. The ballpark barely held him. He's getting a standing ovation for a fly ball out.
Beautiful.
Give the ball to your ace, hold your breath, and hope it lasts.
And he's done it.
You can't predict baseball. That's rule number 1.
And he is at it again tonight. They have not managed a base runner tonight. He threw a no-hitter earlier this season, did that on Sunday Night Baseball, August the 30th in L.A. He might be trying to one-up himself tonight because nobody's even reached base tonight. Gregory Polanco leads off the 7th. A strikeout and a ground out for Polanco. He'll be followed by Marte and McCutchen. And there's a base hit into left field. First hit, first base runner of the night for the Pirates, and another standing ovation for Arrieta. Ricketts there, the chairman of the Chicago Cubs, looking on from his seats. And
That's one of the first time the Pirates hitters actually looked away and tried to hit the ball the other way.
So his bid for history is over, and now you refocus and say, hey, it's just a 2-run game here. As Starling Marte steps in. Remember what's at stake for the Pirates. The Cardinals lost earlier today. Pittsburgh's only 2.5 back of St. Louis, and they will host the Cardinals for 3 beginning tomorrow night. Cardinals giving up 7 runs in the 9th inning today and losing to Milwaukee 8-4. Marte a ground out and a strikeout.
See how far off the plate this pitch is to Polanco, but he had his mindset, you know, I'm going to try to hit the ball the other way. I mean, it's just perfect piece of hit.
Polanco known for jumping on first pitch. Very aggressive and comfortable.
Got some speed. 26 steals on the season.
He's gone.
On the appeal, he didn't go.
This is where you think about positioning too. If Russell had been 2 steps to his left.
It's twice they've got caught up in the metrics part of it. The Soler line driving that one there by Polanco.
So Arrieta pitching from the stretch for the first time tonight. A ball and 2 strikes the count on Marte. Now in the heart of the Pittsburgh lineup. Marte the batter, McCutchen on deck. Pittsburgh has won 8 in a row. They've all been on the road. They took the last 2 of 3 in Los Angeles. They swept a 4-game series at Colorado, and they've taken the first 2 of this series against the Cubs. Runner goes. Pitch swung on and missed. Throw down. The tag not in time. Marte strikes out, but Polanco steals second.
You love the aggressiveness of the Pirates here with Polanco. Just the fact that, you know, you're taking the double play out of order now, and Arrieta, you know, not very quick to home plate. We talked about, I mean, Dan mentioned the speed of Polanco, even with the little neat thing he has going on. It hasn't stopped him from running. Well, Montero did everything he could right there, but he had no chance with the jump, and how deliberate to the plate that Arrieta is. Didn't have a chance, didn't give Montero much of a chance.
Best in baseball, Andrew McCutchen. Batting average with runners in scoring position, and he gets hit by Arrieta.
Something we haven't seen from Arrieta much at all is that pitch running up and into these righties. He stayed mostly away and all the way to McCutchen. See the frustration there from Arrieta.
So Chris Bosio, the pitching coach, will make a slow walk out to the mound. All of a sudden the tone of this game has changed dramatically here this inning. The go-ahead run is at the plate right now for the Pirates here in the 7th inning.
And here, you know, if you're the Cubs, you know, one hit, one big hit. You push a run across here, you know, this could be the inning if you know, they make him throw more pitches that, you know, you can get into this Cubs bullpen. It looks like there's some action going on down in that Cubs bullpen right now.
They faced Arrieta 11 days ago. They faced Greinke and Kershaw recently, and then Hurdle telling us before the game, you may only get 1 or 2 shots at a pitcher of this caliber. You got to take advantage of it when you can. You saw Strop heading down to the bullpen for the Cubs. Just missing the corner, and it's ball 1 to Aramis Ramirez.
Aramis Ramirez has been around long enough. His last at bat, his first at bat, he hit a pop up to third base, but you could tell even at bat prior or after that he struck out. But he's looking middle in and trying to drive something. We got a wild pitch in the bullpen that came in. It's got to make you feel good if you're Joe Madden. Like, oh boy, who threw that one?
You don't see that much anymore because very few parks have bullpens down the line like they have here at Wrigley. But Travis Wood is going to join Strop in the bullpen right now. Pirates threatening. Sharply hit to short, to second one, to first, double play. And just like that, the threat is over. Perfect game gone, but the 2-0 lead intact at the 7th inning stretch. If a sports fan, you've got to get DirecTV. Playoffs begin Tuesday, October the 6th, the American League Wild Card game. You can see it here on ESPN. TBS will bring you the National League Wild Card game on Wednesday the 7th, and all regular season tiebreakers. Any games that may be necessary on Monday the 5th going to be seen here on ESPN. New pitcher for the Pirates. As we go to the bottom of the 7th inning, left-hander Antonio Bastardo. With the Cubs leading 2-0. Dexter Fowler the batter. Bastardo has retired the last 15 batters he has faced. That covers 7 appearances. The Pittsburgh bullpen is outstanding. It has the best ERA in baseball. St. Louis second, Kansas City third. Two terrific lefties in Bastardo, Tony Watson, Joaquin Soria, Mark Melancon anchoring things from the right side. But there's Fowler banging one through the right side into right field, a leadoff base hit. Meanwhile, Wood is still up in the Cubs pen. Arrieta has thrown only 84 pitches through 7. Austin Jackson is going to come up to hit now for Kyle Schwarber. Jackson, a right-handed batter, so he can face the lefty Bastardo, and also a better outfielder than Schwarber, and the Cubs leading right now. So natural move on a couple of fronts for Joe Madden. Picked up from Seattle on the last day of August. Can play center, really can play all over the outfield, will be part of the playoff roster, probably in a platoon or a backup role. But Joe Maddon likes having versatility. He likes the fact that Chris Bryant can go out to left field or even center field if they need him. Jackson can fill in center. Javier Baez can play second, short, and third. Schwarber can catch if they need him, in addition to playing left field.
And Jackson's got some pop. He's got one of the best exit velocities in the game. When he connects, he can let it fly.
I think that's been the problem throughout his career, though, is connecting often enough.
Doesn't connect here, and it's 1-1. Pirates taking the first two, 3-0 on Friday, 3-2 rather on Friday, 4-0 yesterday. Pirates have won 8 in a row. Cubs have lost 3 in a row. Bobby Laframboise is now up in the Pittsburgh pen. September call up, really the third lefty in their pen, getting ready presumably for Rizzo. Swing and a miss, 1-2. Laframboise, excuse me. The Canadian indicator. That one, Laframboise. Laframboise. Jared Hughes doing jumping jacks, keeping loose, getting ready. Rocky, you do some jumping jacks before games when you were playing?
Yeah, of course. I do them before we come on the air.
How about the Arrieta downward dog he was doing in this stretch before he came out?
Well, I can honestly say I've never done that.
Push-ups.
I've done a jumping jack before.
Just the one, or did you string a few together?
I perfected it the first time. Why do it anymore?
2-0 Cubs as they bat in the bottom of the 7th before a packed house here at Wrigley. Fouled off again by Jackson.
This impresses me. Not just the strength component of all this, but the fact that he has the flexibility to come up. Look at the bend, keeping his hands on the ground. I mean, have all that muscle and then be able to bend and do what he can do is why he does what he does on the mound and what he did tonight in the batter's box.
You know, when someone proves to me that can help your golf game, I will not attempt it. If someone says, you know what, your golf game would be so much better if you can do, what's that called again?
Downward dog.
Yeah. Then, you know, maybe I'll give it a shot.
Tim Kirkjian actually tells a story when he was in the Orioles clubhouse. Brady Anderson, who works with the players in the strength and conditioning, when Arrieta was with the Orioles, called him in and he said, watch him do this. And Arrieta went across the weight room on his hands. Not going to see a lot of ball players doing that.
No. But you know what? It's hard to argue with his results. So maybe there will be some copycats coming who will start doing things that Arrieta's been doing. Live K-Zone All Game is brought to you by Booking.com. The start of the set. Fowler with good speed at first. Left-hander trying to hold him on. Runner not going, and the 2-2's outside. The count is full. And you got a guy with a good speed, but you do have, as you said, Jess, a batter who will strike out more than most. So does Joe Maddon put the runner in motion?
You know, I've been watching Fowler. It doesn't look like he has a very good read on Antonio Bastardo. Sometimes he lifts his leg and Fowler take a step back to first. And
2 on with nobody out. And here comes the skipper. Bastardo, is he saying it's only ball 3? Yeah. He's saying it's only ball 3.
Cervelli is too.
So Rob Drake's going to go down to third. Jerry Davis, the crew chief, is there. Let's see if we can run through the sequence.
1-0. 1-1. 1-2. 1-2. 1-2. 2-2. 3-2.
All four.
Well, he either struck out or walked because he threw enough pitches for one or the other. And since he didn't swing and miss after he got 2 strikes, I'm thinking it's a walk.
It's funny, both pitcher and catcher right away would be saying,
yeah,
no, that's ball 3.
Maybe they celebrated last night along with the Cubbies. And while we got a sec, I'd like to congratulate my daughter's travel team, the Flex in Fort Myers. They played in a big travel tournament this weekend in Venice, Florida, and they came out champions. So
nice.
Good luck. Congratulations to the young ladies.
Could she hit?
Flex.
Ballers.
She played second base and some outfield. Stole some bases, she said. I don't know.
Nice.
She's got a good bat.
Congrats.
She uses a Mendoza bat, too, which is sickening.
She's a stud. I can't believe it's taken this long.
They needed to go over their head like I just did. I verbalized it.
You did a great
in
job.
my head.
You did.
I mean, what's... Yeah, this shouldn't take this long, you wouldn't think. Gives me a chance to take another bite of my hot dog, though, I guess. So he's going to say, okay, that's 4 balls. So Jackson's on first, Fowler's on second, and then they're going to make a pitching change.
Yes. Ball 4, says Jerry Davis.
Now Clint has to come back out, take out the startup, and he's limping pretty good. So
You're still not convinced. And there's the call to the bullpen. All right, pitching change. Chris Bryant coming up. When do we come back to Wrigley? On ESPN, presented by Taco Bell. Back at Wrigley Field, very lively tonight. Cubs leading 2-0 in the 7th. The most popular way to follow the action of the September pennant races is with MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. Enjoy live look-ins, highlights, replay reviews, scores, StatCast, live radio broadcasts, and more. Get the MLB.com at Bat app now. All right, we did. Their first Cubs game. Seen a pretty good one. Arrieta perfect through 6. Finally gave up a base hit in the 7th, 2-0. Jared Hughes, I mean, he's breathing hard. Maybe part of the reason is he ran about a 100-yard dash from the bullpen into the mound. Good numbers for Hughes. So he obviously knows what he's doing. He's done a great job in these kinds of situations, stranding inherited runners. Only 9 out of 52 have scored this year. 2 on, nobody out for Chris Bryant. This is likely a one-batter appearance for Hughes, with the left hand hitting Rizzo on deck. Lefty up in the pen, Laframboise, and now there's a righty who has joined him. So we may get up close and personal with a lot of the Pittsburgh bullpen here this inning. Archimedes Caminero is in the pen as well. He's probably coming in to face Castro.
Who would have thought that Archimedes Caminero would be easier to say than
Laframboise.
No, boy.
I think you should handle all the pitching changes
no,
for the rest of the inning.
We're good for this one. We're good.
A high fly ball into right center field. Polanco wants it and will make the catch for out number 1. The runners hold. Let's see what Clint Hurdle wants to do. He's going to get his steps in here this inning. That's all for Hughes. The lefty's coming in. Laframboise to face Rizzo. Crowd doesn't like the change. Hurdle's playing the percentages. It's nothing. Bottom of the 7th. 2 on with 1 out for the Cubs. Anthony Rizzo's going to see a left-hander in Bobby Laframboise. Rizzo's hitting .299 against lefties. A real area of improvement for him over the last couple of years. Laframboise, a September call-up from Indianapolis. And some very good numbers and limited opportunities with the Pirates. Fowler's at second. Jackson's at first. The Cubs looking to extend their lead here at Wrigley. And there you can see the difference from 2013 into the last 2 years. Much, much better for Rizzo. Cubs have had their chances tonight. Could be leading by more than just 2. They're just 2 for 9 with the runners in scoring position. Down and away, ball 1.
That's where Rizzo crowding has helped him, is versus the lefties, and that's when he made that adjustment, is when he struggled against left-handed pitchers. And he told me part of it's too visualizing, being able to see the ball out front, knowing it's not going to hit his front hip, staying with that pitch, moving away.
Way out in front, 1-1. Cervelli leads the majors in trips to the mound this year.
Salvador Perez
is right there with him.
He can wear a path out too. Yeah. You know you've been out there a lot when as soon as Cervelli called timeout, and basically when he got from the there's that inside pitch, Rizzo's trying to jerk one down in that right field corner to try to score 2. But as soon as Cervelli got past the dirt and into the grass, Rob Drake was right behind him.
1-1. High fly ball, center field. McCutcheon back has room. He will make the catch. Fowler will tag. Jackson will tag. Both runners will advance. And we'll see what Clint Hurdle wants to do. He's got the right-hander Caminero up. The right-hand hitting Castro coming to the plate. Is he going to make another move? He sure is.
He was resting.
So one more pitching change coming as Clint Hurdle makes every move he can make to try to keep this a 2-run game. Bottom 7 here at Wrigley. Big news around baseball today. If you haven't seen it, you're going to hear a lot about it over the next couple of days. Bryce Harper lifts a fly ball to shallow left field, and Jonathan Papelbon takes issue with Harper not running, evidently takes issue with him not running as hard as he thought he should down to first. Words exchange, and then you can see Papelbon rushed Harper, got his hand up on his throat before it was broken up in the dugout. Just another in a series of issues and incidents that have plagued the Washington Nationals this year. A year that had such high hopes. This may go back to the Manny Machado situation when Papelbon hit Machado. He's appealed that 3-game suspension, and Harper voiced some displeasure about that, maybe worried that he was going to be the one, if they were seeking retribution, it would come back at him. Papelbon may not have liked that.
Yeah, they're not going to be over at each other's house for Thanksgiving dinner.
No.
It's a tough situation, but the last thing you want to do when you pop up and you miss a pitch is to have a relief pitcher come up and tell you, hey, you need to play the game differently. There's a time and place for everything, and that was a wrong time for Papelbon to do it.
That happened in the bottom of the 8th inning. Harper did not go back out for the top of the 9th. Papelbon, who finished the top of the 8th, went back out for the top of the 9th and gave up a home run. And the Phillies had a huge inning and won the game over the Nationals. But, that's a combustible situation. And they got a lot of different kinds of personalities on that team. But Papelbon just finds himself in the middle of another situation.
Yeah, everywhere he's been, there's been a situation of some sort with Jonathan Papelbon. And like I said, there's a time and place for everything, but there's a time and place for it to be said by someone else, not a relief pitcher. If it's That would have hurt. But, you know, if it was a Ryan Zimmerman or a Jason Worth, you know, two established veteran players who have a presence in that locker room, if it was one of them saying, you know, after, hey, Bryce, you know, I wish you would have ran harder on that play or something like that. That gets the message over than yelling at him from the in the dugout.
The key word is locker room. Because, I mean, you know,
Behind
as a hitter,
closed
when you're coming right off of first base and you're fired up already, I mean, you saw his frustration. Yeah, he should have ran it out, but that is not the time.
Starlin Castro drills one to deep left, and they are signaling it a home run. Third base umpire Jerry Davis says it was up above the basket, bounced back out of the field of play, and that is a home run for Starlin Castro. Clint Hurdle may want to have a look at this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, when you go out there, that basket is above the brick behind it. So if it hits that brick, it's going to bounce out and hit the netting and stay there. It looks like the ball hit the top of the netting and bounced back in play.
Yeah, sure did.
Yeah, from someone who's played left field there, that part of the wall's never really changed. That netting is above that brick behind it, and if it hits the brick, of course, it's a home run. But there's no way it could hit the brick and bounce back onto the field. It's hitting that netting there, the fence in front of it, and that'll be a double and 2 RBIs.
Yeah, the runners were at second and third. If they rule it in the field of play, should be a double. Obviously, both runners would score. You would score a guy from second on a double. So this one should be fairly quick, and the end result should be a 4-0 lead instead of a 5-0 lead.
This half inning's taken hour and a half. Had what, 3 or 4 pitching changes, a couple of.
I don't think we're going to see Jake Arrieta again.
He's probably showered and home by now.
I think even the fans here watching the replay up on the big new jumbotron they've got here at Wrigley Field would have to concede that ball didn't look like it got out.
I just don't understand
why it takes as long as it does. Yeah, I'm with you. Either way, another big hit for Starlin Castro, who's been delivering a lot of them recently for the Cubs. Do they feel they have enough evidence to overturn it? The call on the field was home run.
Now, did that hit the bottom, or did that act? But there was a line drive. I don't know how it could have gone over that net and hit the bottom of that brick wall and
come back on the
bounce straight up.
Double. So Castro with a double and 2 RBIs as they overturn the call, and it is 4-0 Cubs. Now the batter, Jorge Soler. Runner at second, 2 down. Soler 0 for 3.
Caminero throws the ball up to 98, comes back with the split finger in 89. Hardest thing of throwing fastball so hard is all you have to do is get to contact for these Cub hitters.
Well, here's the last 2 pitches to Starlin Castro. Caminero throws inside, almost hits him. And Jess, you mentioned the whole game he's been bailing and wailing. And why would you come back in with another pitch hard in when he's bailing right into it. Look at this. The front foot opens, the hip opens, but he's throwing it right to the barrel of Starlin Castro's bat. You're throwing something away and have him reach for it. I don't know if we went over the ground rules, but if a ball happens to come in the booth, you got it.
I got it.
You got it.
I'm on it.
You know why? Because we don't got it.
Yeah. I'll see both of you duck under.
Yeah.
And all right.
I'm not ducking
I'm
anywhere.
Ready. I'm glad we went over it, though.
If you don't
if I
catch
hide
it
behind Dan, I'm in trouble.
If you don't catch it, it's going to hit me. Because I ain't ducking and I can't get out of the way.
I've seen you with the glove out in the field. You guys have called games
good.
out there and reached for a few.
I'm good.
I got you guys.
Cubs trying to snap a 3-game losing streak, up 4-0 on the Pirates here in the bottom of the 7th, looking for their 90th win of the season. Pittsburgh's won 8 in a row coming into this one. And the inning is finally over. Couple of runs, a couple of reviews for pitchers. End of 7, and the Cubs lead the Pirates 4-0. Time now for our high-strength performance brought to you by Chevy Silverado. And it was all Jake Arrieta in the early going tonight. He was perfect for the first 6 innings. And he provided some offense with an opposite field home run in his first at-bat tonight. The Pirates finally got a base hit off him in the 7th. They hit a batter as well, but that's it. Look at these numbers. 4 earned runs in his last 11 starts. He does not come back out to the top of the 8th inning. The Cubs a long bottom of the 7th. A lot of pitching changes that inning. They add a couple of runs to their lead. So Joe Maddon goes to his bullpen for left-hander Travis Wood, who has been, of course, both a starter and a reliever for the Chicago Cubs. He'll come on to face Neil Walker, turning Walker around to the right side, his weaker side. What an interesting guy for the Cubs. Can be used in a lot of roles. Also a tremendous hitter. Wood 5-4 with a 4.03 ERA, 50 appearances on the season, 9 of them starts, 41 of them in relief. Catches the inside corner 0-2. Chris Denorfia is in the game in left field for Kyle Schwarber. Austin Jackson stays in the game in right field for Soler. And Javier Baez is in at second for Starlin Castro. So Jackson pinch hit for Schwarber, but takes Soler's spot in the field. As Walker strikes out one down. Again, Joe Maddon loves the versatility that he has. Loves that he has guys like Jackson, like Denorfia, like Baez. He can put his best defensive team in there with a lead as Pedro Strop is up again in the pen. Wood will bat in the 6th spot in Soler's spot. Denorfia hitting 5th in Castro's spot. And Baez is hitting 9th. The batter, Francisco Cervelli. Swing and a miss, 0-2. Wood throwing strikes, throwing hard.
As a little capper on Jake Arrieta, he now has allowed 9 earned runs and 101 in the 3rd innings of the second half. The second half ERA post All-Star break 0.80.
Good to be in line for win number 21 tonight. Live K-Zone all game is brought to you by Booking.com. Blew it by him at 94. Back-to-back strikeouts for Wood. Looking ahead to the postseason, let's say the Cubs get to a division series. Obviously, Jake Arrieta figures to start the wild card game. If they win that game and they get into a division series, John Lester would figure to start game 1. Joe Maddon has not committed, nor should any manager really at this point be forced to commit to who his number 3 starter would be, who would have to start game 2 of a division series. Jason Hamill is an option, but he's had an up and down season. But they've got some guys like Travis Wood, like Clayton Richard, like Trevor Cahill, former starters who are now pitching more in relief. But there's been some talk around town about maybe a bullpen game in the playoffs, Crocky, which is highly unusual, especially in game 2 of a series. But that maybe Joe Maddon could mix and match and use 3-4 different guys.
Yeah, and that would be right up Joe's alley, wouldn't it? Okay, here's her lineup, and okay, here's who I'm pitching. You know, here's my starter, but 2nd inning, 3rd inning, 4th inning, you don't know who's coming in, and it's going to make it difficult to manage against that if you're whoever the opponent is. But you know, that's all predicated on John Lester going deep into game 1. If John Lester doesn't go deep in game 1 and you have to use a lot of your bullpen, that's going to be tougher for him to do in a game 2. Now, if it was a game 3 and you had that off day in between, then you can see it happening. But
that's the big disadvantage if you're a wild card team. Example, the Cubs is if Arrieta pitches the wild card game, and if you win, you can't use your ace until game 3 of a division series. Cubs virtually locked into the wild card game. If they win tonight, they would be 4.5 back of the Pirates with a week left to play.
But if you're going to use a bullpen game in a game 2, why wouldn't you start Hamill? Then the first sign of trouble, then roll in the bullpen. He might give you 6 innings. Who knows? You know, keep the game close, 5-6 innings. And who knows?
And even though it's similar faces, it's a different look for a team they're definitely going to be facing that they've faced a ton this year.
Guys, he did it before, actually, when he was managing the Rays against the Boston Red Sox in 2013. Game 4 of that series, he used 9 pitchers. He started Hellickson and went to reliever in the 2nd inning, and they wound up losing that game 3-1.
He's not afraid to try something. We all know that. It all starts with the American League wild card game. The postseason does on Tuesday night, October the 6th, 8 Eastern, here on ESPN. The National League wild card game the next night, Wednesday the 7th on TBS. Go to MLB.com/postseason for a full schedule. The batter, Jordy Mercer, as Montero will head to the mound right now.
Yeah, 6 pitches to get 2 strikeouts to start the inning, and now Travis Wood's having a little difficulty finding the plate. Might have fit him 15 years ago.
Up and away, misses badly again. Crowd getting a little bit restless. Strop ready if needed in the pen. And Here comes Chris Bosio, the pitching coach now.
Speaking of pitching coach, we talk about Ray Searage and the job he's done with some guys, reclamation projects, and you talk to anyone in the Cubs pitching staff and they'll tell you how diligent Chris Bosio is with his work ethic and formulating a game plan and working on the little things mechanically to some tweaks to get these guys in.
And the freedom to even get back to the mechanics you had, like Arrieta wanted to get back to, that he didn't have with the Orioles. Confidence he was able to gain the Bosio allowed him to figure out what he did, not so much what's mechanically perfect.
I think in the 8th inning, 2 outs, Josh Harrison's probably not going to try to steal. Down 4. Yep. Maybe that gets Travis Wood back on track.
And with a strike, 2-1.
Brisk game up until this inning. Wow.
I think the 8th might have taken longer than the first 7.
The bottom of the 7th.
Bottom 7. You're right. Bottom last inning. Bottom 7, top 8 taking longer than the rest. There's a ball laced foul. Well, this is a big game. The Pirates know that the Cardinals lost earlier today. So right now the Pirates are just 2.5 back of St. Louis, and they host the Cardinals this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But if the Pirates can't win this one, they fall to 3 back, meaning they would need to sweep the Cardinals to move into a tie with them heading into the season's final series for each. Lots still to play for. Runner is going. 3-2 swung on, hit in the air to left field. Denorfia has room. And the inning is over. So the bottom of the 8th at Wrigley, 4-0 Cubs. Baseball on ESPN is presented by the Quesarito and Volcano Quesarito Big Boxes. Grab them at Taco Bell. Bottom of the 8th at Wrigley. Cubs 4, Pirates nothing. Here on a nice night in Chicago. Our final Sunday night telecast of the regular season. Well, earlier tonight, as many of you may be aware, there was a lunar eclipse still going on right now. As you well know, Crucky, the Earth getting right in between the sun and the moon. The Earth casting a shadow so the moon is completely blacked out. It's pretty cool.
It's really cool.
Come on, give me your best shot. Oh, Crucky. Miguel Montero takes a strike from the new pitcher for the Pirates, Joe Blanton. Blanton picked up in a trade with Kansas City on July the 30th. He's been really, really good since coming to Pittsburgh. His numbers as a Pirate, 5-0 with a 1.82 ERA in 18 appearances out of the bullpen. He's walked 80, has struck out 34 in 29 2/3 innings in a Pittsburgh uniform. A weakly hit ground ball with the shift on. That'll be Mercer coming over to make the play onto Michael Morse, who has checked into the game at first base this inning, 1 down. Keep up with the pennant races in true HD quality on MLB.TV Premium. Watch every out-of-market game live on more than 400 supported devices, real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking widget, and more. Visit MLB.TV today. Strike taken by Addison Russell. Well, around baseball today, the American League wild card race is still going on, still up for grabs. The Yankees look like they're in a really good spot for the first wild card spot right now. They won today. Luis Severino pitching well in a Yankee win over the White Sox. Houston won. The Angels won. Minnesota won. So Houston remains in the second wild card spot, a half game up on the Angels. Minnesota just a game and a half back.
Angels won without their closer, Houston Street.
Mike Warren picking up the save in a 3-2 win over Seattle. How about that catch Mike Trout made yesterday?
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
He was like 5 feet above the wall.
Half his body was over the wall. And it made it look like,
yeah,
you know,
it does it all the time.
Yeah, like someone tossed the ball up to him and he was, you know, like you do with your kids.
Like a thing you stage in a studio or something.
Yeah.
You do it 100 times till you get it right.
But those are the best.
Bounced foul. Mike Trout continues to do things that human beings shouldn't be able to do.
You practice this as an outfielder. Climbing the wall, you visualize. The best thing you can do, I feel like, out of the grass is climb a wall. Look how high he gets in the reach. Ridiculous.
A shot to right, but Polanco there. Russell retired, 2 down. I think the MVP race in the American League is fascinating right now between Trout and Josh Donaldson. It looks like a 2-man race. Trout makes that catch yesterday. Donaldson hits a walk-off home run today for Toronto. I think you can make a compelling case for both of them.
Yeah, Trout had that lull where in the month of September, you know, it was a struggle for him earlier this month, and you know, Donaldson just kept coming up with hit after hit. I think it's more challenging for Mike Trout because Donaldson plays in a better lineup. You know, he's hitting second in front of Batista and Encarnacion, and you know, Albert Pujols just, you know, even though he's hitting a lot of home runs, he's not the same Albert Pujols that he was as a Cardinal. And
whether or not the Angels make the playoffs may have a say to a certain extent in the votes for Trout. Javier Baez is the batter. His first at bat of the night, just came on defensively an inning ago.
Joe Blanton wanted that pitch, at least by the stare in.
Right center field, Polanco again, and the inning is over. We're going to the 9th at Wrigley. Cubs are 3 outs away from a victory. Thanks to everybody who sent in their tweets by using hashtag #RepMyTeam. Every Sunday, be sure to send in a picture showing how you support your team, and your tweet could wind up on TV. Top of the 9th at Wrigley. They think it's going to happen this year. It's been happening for them tonight. They're up 4-0 going to the 9th. After we wrap up this game, join John Abuchagras and John Anderson as they break down the game and bring you all the action from Week 3 in the NFL. Sports Center at night, kicking off when this game ends on ESPN and streaming live on Watch ESPN. Travis Wood back out for the 9th for the Cubs. Michael Morse gets his first at bat of the 9th. Hitting in the 9th spot, so Polanco and Marte to follow. The story tonight, Jake Arrieta, 7 innings. He was perfect through 6. Gave up a leadoff base hit in the 7th. 7 innings, 1 hit, 1 hit batter, no walks, 9 strikeouts. Did not come back out for the 8th after that long bottom of the 7th inning with 4 pitchers and a couple of replay reviews as well. Only threw 84 pitches, but Cubs added to the lead in the bottom of the 7th, and he must have sat at least half an hour. So Wood works the 8th and is out here to start the 9th with Hector Rondon, the closer for the Cubs, ready if needed in the bullpen. Morse didn't like that at all. K-Zone backs him up. It's 2-2. Fly ball to right field. Taking Jackson back onto the warning track, but he's got room. Well, it's a big week coming up. Last week of the regular season. Even with a loss here tonight, the Pirates would be 3 back of the Cardinals, and they're hosting the Cardinals this week. You can see the Monday and the Wednesday games from Pittsburgh on the ESPN family of networks. The Yankees and Red Sox, and then the Angels hosting Oakland Tuesday. And also later on Wednesday, the Dodgers and the Giants. The Dodgers haven't clinched yet. Dodgers lost today. Giants won. Magic number still 2 for the Dodgers. We'll also have a game for you Thursday and Friday on ESPN. The game still to be determined based on what is the most meaningful matchup. If there are any one-game playoffs, any 163s needed on Monday, we'll have them for you. And then the American League wild card game a week from Tuesday, October the 6th, here on ESPN. As of now, that game would come from Yankee Stadium. Here's Gregory Polanco.
I'm excited to see the Angels take on the Rangers later in the week. The way that whole AL wildcard's playing out right now in the AL West.
4-game series Thursday through Sunday in Arlington. Houston beating Texas today. The Angels beating Seattle.
So Sunday we could get a call and say you need to be in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Pittsburgh and St. Louis could have a 163.
Or you could be in Houston or Texas
or Anaheim.
Minnesota.
Yeah. All over the place.
This is fun.
Yeah. Imagine
Hawaii.
Almost all over the place. Say Pittsburgh and St. Louis wind up tied at the end of the regular season. They have to play a 1-game playoff on the Monday to decide who wins the division and who is the wild card. So they would play Monday, and then the loser would have to go play the Cubs Wednesday in the National League wild card game. Caught out at short by Russell 2 down.
It's twice he's done that tonight.
Joe Madden loves his D.
Big part of why Russell got put there halfway through the season. His reads, reaction, athleticism.
2 down in the 9th. Starling Marte, the batter. Everybody on their feet at Wrigley. In the air to right field. This should do it. And it does. Arrieta the first 7, Wood the last 2. Cubs beat the Pirates 4-0. Pittsburgh's 8-game winning streak is over, but they still got a huge series coming, beginning with the Cardinals tomorrow night, 7 Eastern time on ESPN2. They are both headed to the postseason. Jake Arrieta perfect through 6-7 innings of one-hit shutout ball as the Cubs salvage the final game of the series and beat Pittsburgh 4-0. For John Kruk, Jessica Mendoza, Buster Olney, and our entire Sunday night crew, I'm Dan Shulman saying thanks for watching and so long from Chicago.